Today I'm going to give you some tips on traveling to Venice with kids. I've lived here for 4 years and I've learned a lot, so let's get started. If we haven't met yet, my name is Kalen Bruce. I'm the founder of Freedom Sprout, where we talk about raising intentional children and living intentional lives. If that interests you, hit the subscribe button below. Venice is beautiful. The canals, the architecture, all the views, the gondola rides, everything you see in the movies. I still remember the first time we came out of the train station and we looked across and saw the water and saw the people and saw the scene. It's just an amazing place, and I'll never forget it. If you've been to Venice and you have your own experiences, share your comments below. I'd like to know what your experience was, and then share any questions throughout if you want to know more about specific topics. So the first thing is safety. Venice is safe for kids. It's mostly safe in general. The only thing you really have to worry about is pickpocketing, which is kind of all of Europe, but there's not a lot of violent crime. Of course, you probably know this, but human trafficking is a thing everywhere. People seem to think it's worse in Europe. It's bad everywhere. It's actually really bad in the States, but in Europe, in anywhere you're traveling, just be sure to keep your hands on your kids, use a leash, use whatever you have to use to keep an eye on your kids. But just know that it's mostly safe, but human trafficking is a thing everywhere. So we keep a close eye on our kids at all times. And the final thing to watch for safety-wise is the hawkers. You'll see them on the streets. Not really a safety concern, but just important to know if you see someone selling something at a stand that's laid out in a blanket or using cardboard boxes or something that was obviously set up quickly and can be taken down quickly, don't buy from these people. It's illegal for them to be selling. When you see the people hawking things and selling selfie sticks and toys for the kids and stuff, it's illegal for them to be doing that. Whenever the policia or the carbonaries come, they will run immediately, and you can tell, like, we've seen them running through Venice. So just don't buy from these people. Be polite, but don't buy from them. It's actually illegal. And with anything in Italy, you're supposed to have a receipt. It's a big deal. You can actually get in trouble for buying something and not having a receipt. I've never seen the carbs or the policia come up to someone and ask them for their receipt, but I've heard that it happens, so just know that. All right, so you know it's mostly safe. So next thing is the cost. Our family of 7 has taken many weekend trips there and spent less than $400 for a 3 or a 4 day weekend, so it is possible. It doesn't have to be that expensive. Of course, we can take the train, so that's a little bit different. If you're paying for airfare, that's definitely going to be your most expensive cost. And just a quick thing to know, if you have a large family in Europe in general, but especially in Italy, you're going to get a lot of stairs. Italians typically have 2 children. It's kind of the standard. The saying here is 1 isn't enough and 2 is too many. They love kids. Most people love our family. Whenever they see a large family, we get a lot of congratulations. Occasionally people think we're irresponsible for having so many kids, but honestly, that's anywhere. For the most part, it's fine in Europe. You're gonna get more congratulations than you are dirty looks. So the next thing is getting to Venice. This isn't as easy as it sounds, because Venice is basically an island, and then you have the airport, which is on the mainland. So when you land at the airport, or however you get there, you do have to find a way to get over to Venice. If you have access to the train system, that runs right into the middle of Venice, but if you're coming in by plane, you're gonna have to get there somehow, and the train doesn't run to the airport. And one quick note, if you are flying in and you're trying to use European budget airlines, just know that Copenhagen, for some reason, in Denmark, is usually the cheapest place to fly into. And then flying back out, the cheapest place to fly into in the States is usually JFK in New York. And so it works both ways. So to get over to Venice, the funnest and most scenic option is going to be a water taxi. You can actually walk through the airport to the water taxis, and you can pay for one, and you can get over to Venice. The prices fluctuate a little bit, so I don't want to give any specifics, but that's the most scenic and probably the funnest way to get there. The cheapest way to get there is going to be the bus. There's a bus that runs to the airport, takes you into downtown Venice, and that's pretty affordable. And then the other option would be a taxi. Uber isn't really a thing here. Uber's not a thing in Italy in general. Rome has Uber Black, and I believe Milan may have Uber Black, but that's all they allow. But you won't see Uber outside of a couple of major cities, and Venice is not one of the cities that has Uber, at least not yet in 2020. And finally, if you arrive in Treviso Airport and you don't arrive in the main Marco Polo Airport, there is a bus that runs. So you can take the bus. That's basically the only way to get over there that I know of, unless you want to walk to a train station. Next thing is where to stay. Lodging, hotels, motels, whatever you want to stay in. I recommend Airbnb. We always stay at Airbnb. The first time we went to Venice, we got a hotel room. It was very expensive. It was on the strip, so it was very noisy. It's a lot of older buildings. Italy has a lot of strict laws on what they can and can't do to buildings with renovations to keep the historical look. So I don't recommend hotels as much. They're going to be pricier, they're not going to be as comfortable, and Airbnb is just all the way a better route to go when it comes to lodging in most of Italy in general. Getting around and sightseeing. Venice does not have cars, so that's a great plus for kids. So go back to safety, we say we don't have to worry about that. Other places like Naples and Sicily, there's a lot of dangerous traffic around. You have to guard your kids with your life, but not the case in Venice because there's no cars in the actual island downtown area where you see people walking, the place that you're going to want to be. So when you first get into downtown Venice, you're going to notice everyone walking towards Piazza San Marco, which is the San Marco church, the basilica. It's the one with the big square, the place you see in movies with all the birds that fly everywhere, The Italian Job and a bunch of other movies. You'll see San Marco Square.
It'll be a long trip. I'm in Venice.
Everyone's kind of going to be migrating from the train station or the front of Venice to San Marco Square. So if you follow the crowd, you're going to end up there. But there are signs. You may have to ask someone to figure out what the signs mean because they're not as simple as saying, I think it does say San Marco, but it says it in a way that you may have to get some clarification on. But you can go straight through the city and you can go to San Marco Square immediately, or you can always go later on. And there are plenty of walking tours. There are a lot of free walking tours. Tipping isn't a thing in Italy, but of course with a free tour, with that specifically, you are expected to tip because that's how they make money. So I would recommend walking tours. You can get those online. You can just Google them when you get there. You'll meet in a spot and you'll go. And if you're just going to Venice for the first time, I would say to just walk everywhere. I wouldn't worry as much about trying to get around public transportation unless you have some sort of a disability or a reason why you can't walk long distances. I would definitely say to try to just walk around. If you see a church, see if you can go in it. You can go in most of the old churches. When you get to San Marco Square, I believe you can go in the church for free, but to get into the bell tower, I think you have to pay €10 or something like that. For the most part, churches are completely free to walk into. Be very respectful, be very quiet, but you can walk in and see the architecture, and it's always going to be amazing. Since Venice is all foot traffic, and there's not even bicycles in Venice, there's not supposed to be, but sometimes there are because Italians. But since it's all foot traffic, the only way to really get around public transportation wise in the city is the water taxis on the outside of the city. So you have to walk to the water, pay for a water taxi, and then go around to the other side or get dropped off at different points. And you can buy tickets for the water taxis at any tabacceria. That's going to be your best bet. Maybe you can buy them at the actual water taxi, I'm not sure, but it's probably more expensive if you can. So just go into one of the many tabaccerias. Tobacco shop is what it is, and get a water taxi ticket before you go over to them. And you can get like a day pass where it is all encompassing, takes you all around Venice. It even takes you to Murano, which is the glass blowing island. So you can go out there on a water taxi, just get a 24-hour pass, 48-hour pass, however long you're going to be there. Next, we're going to talk about the gondola rides. So this is famous. You have to do it. It's kind of a must when you're in Venice. Everyone knows that. You know, you have the guys, the gondoliers with the shirts and everything, guys and gals with the shirts and everything. Well, I haven't seen any women gondoliers actually, but I'll have to see if that's a thing. Regardless, they have the shirts and the gondolas, and you have to do it. Now, don't book your ticket online, because if you book it online, usually you pay per person. Venice has a set rate. The gondola rides are €80 for the entire boat. So you pay for the entire boat, €80. It doesn't matter if you're a family of, I think whenever we took a gondola ride, we were a family of 6. If you're a family of 2, whatever it is, you pay €80. So you can pay them right there. You can pay cash. You can pay the gondoliers. And I would recommend doing that over buying them online, because you're going to pay a lot more if you buy them online. Now let's talk about the most important part, and I'm sure one of the main things on your list, food. The food's amazing. We've had the pasta, we've had the pizza, we've had pizza with pasta on it. That's a thing. The food's amazing everywhere. You can go in almost any shop. It's not going to stay in business if it's not good. So just any Italian place there, you're going to find good food. But there are a few things to know before you go in. First off, the pasta is going to be cooked al dente. If you cook it over al dente and cook it soft like Americans tend to cook it, like you get at Olive Garden, they consider that overcooked. So just expect that anywhere you go. Also, Alfredo is not a thing here. It was invented in Italy, but it did not take off in Italy, and it has went to the States, and it's a big thing in the States. Alfredo is not a thing here unless you're in a very, very touristy area with a lot of Americans. You may see it occasionally. And finally, the gelato. You'll see a gelateria on every corner. They're all over the place. When you're looking for gelato, just make sure you find the ones that it's almost always going to be in the window. You can see the gelato. Make sure it's not melting. If it's melting, then it's not made the real Italian way, and you'll figure that out whenever you taste the difference. But if you want the best gelato, just make sure it's still frozen and it looks completely solid. And I know I said something about it earlier, but tipping here is not really a thing. You can tip in the more touristy areas. They don't find it offensive if you tip. It's not like some cultures where they find it offensive, but tipping just isn't a thing, so no one's gonna be surprised if you don't tip. They may mention it or expect it in the touristy areas, but you're still not required to. It's up to you. The servers make a livable wage, so don't feel obligated to tip. But if we have outstanding service, we still tip usually. 10% is considered a really good tip, considering they don't get tips usually. So as far as the types of restaurants go, you have several different types of eateries. You have restaurantes, you have trattorias, you have osterias. I'm probably pronouncing those wrong, but regardless, you have a lot of different options for places to eat, and I'll tell you about all of them real quick. So a restaurante is typically the most expensive. It's gonna be white tablecloth, fine dining style. It's gonna cater to a higher class. It's gonna cater to people with money, more money. So restaurantes are gonna be the most expensive. Food's gonna be great, just like everywhere, but it's gonna be more almost commercialized. Trattorias are usually one of our favorite places to eat. That's going to be more like a family style restaurant. It's a family owned restaurant with homemade recipes that they've passed down for centuries. Centuries seems like a long time. Decade, years, long time. Trattorias are going to still have the white tablecloths, but the prices are going to be a lot less than the typical restaurante. Then there's osterias or osterias. I'm still not sure how to pronounce it. I've asked, but so these were originally created for workers, so it caters to the working class, but they've kind of upscaled it since, like Italy tends to do with everything food related. You still might see white tablecloths, but the prices at these places, osterias, are going to be a lot less than they are at restaurantes. It'll be similar to trattorias, but a lot of times the food in general will be better at osterias because it just has more love in it. I don't know. Add more love, but it's better. And then we got pizzerias. You'll see one of these on every corner right by the gelato shops. These places are always going to be amazing. Pizzerias are almost always going to be cheaper if you want just pizza than any of the places I've already mentioned, though most of the places I've mentioned, almost all of them are going to have pizza as well. It's just going to be more expensive. So if you just want pizza, if you want to try the pizza with pasta on it like I was talking about, some of the more innovative things, just go to a pizzeria. And while you're there, you have to try pizzeria anyways, and it's basically a requirement. Then you have bars. Does not mean the same thing it means in the States. It's not an alcohol bar, it is a coffee bar or cafe bar. And you can go up and order coffee, and there's a few things to know. First thing, they say that it's rude to walk away. You're supposed to get the coffee, espresso, whatever you have. It is espresso, not espresso. So you have to take it and you're supposed to drink it there. That is the case in Italy in general, in touristy areas. They don't expect you to do that. They understand that you're not Italian. It's not that big of a deal. Same thing with ordering a cappuccino in the afternoon. A lot of people would tell you that it's disrespectful, I guess. I don't know, it's just not in their culture. They don't drink cappuccino afternoon. But again, stupid American card. Just play it, or wherever you're coming from, stupid, not Italian card, whatever, or just not Italian, you're not to be stupid. But regardless, you can order a macchiato if you're worried about it. Macchiatos are okay any time of the day for the most part, but cappuccinos usually in the morning. Just order what you want. If you're only there for a week or so, nobody's gonna get offended. You're in Venice. There's probably more Americans than there are Italians. But if you want to respect their culture, cappuccinos in the morning, macchiatos in the afternoon. And then you have the gelaterias that I already mentioned, and I already talked about how to find good gelato. Just try all of it. You'll eventually find good gelato. There's at least literally at least six other types of restaurants that I can think of that I haven't mentioned. You're not gonna see many of those, mostly like bakeries and sandwich shops and different types of sandwich shops and stuff like that. The ones I mentioned, the restaurantes, trattorias, osterias, those are gonna be your main ones, pizzerias that you're gonna eat at. But one final point on the food, if you see agri in the name, agricola, which is agriculture or agricultural in Italian, that means that a certain percentage, usually a high percentage of the food is grown at the restaurant. You're not going to see a whole lot of those in Venice just because it's a small city and there's not enough room for a farm to be behind a restaurant. But if you venture outside of Venice, you will see some of the agri restaurants. You'll see different names, but just know if you see agri in the title, that's what it means. And I would recommend trying one if you come across one, because all the ones we've eaten at are amazing. Moving on to souvenirs. Venice is full of souvenir shops. Whenever you walk through the little alleys to get to San Marco Square or to get wherever you're going, You're gonna see so many shops, so much stuff there. My only tip with this would be to shop around, see where you can get the best price, the people selling stuff on the streets, not the people with the sheets laid out selling fake Fuji products or whatever, but the ones who are out on the pier with paintings and street vendors and stuff like that. You can haggle. I don't haggle because that's their livelihood, and I don't think it really benefits me to save $10 just so I can brag about saving $10 on something later on. Like, I was selling it for 30, I got it for 20, good deal for me. I'm not gonna miss that $10, but I feel like in a sense it's disrespectful. So that's why I don't do it. But you can haggle if you want to. But when it comes to souvenirs, a lot of the stuff you're gonna see is glass. The Murano Island that's famous for glass blowing, you'll see a lot of that in the city of Venice for sale. Sometimes you wanna buy stuff, but you're afraid to take it back in the plane, you're afraid it's gonna get broken in your luggage. Most of the shops will ship it to your house. You pay for it there, and then you may have to pay a small shipping fee, and they'll ship it to your home so you don't have to worry about taking it back with you. If you're in a shop that can't do that, then you can find a shop that can do that, because there's a bunch of them. Or you can always just wrap it in diapers or something. That's what we do. We wrap a lot of stuff in diapers. Wine, we wrap wine in diapers. If it spills, it soaks it up. As far as souvenirs go, the paintings, I recommend. We bought a painting of Venice that was painted the night we flew into Venice. I thought that was pretty cool. I think we paid 25 or 30 euro for a 18 by 14 painting. It's really nice. And then beaches. You may not be going to the beach if you're only there for a week or so. There's so much to see in the city, you may not need to go to a beach. But just know there are beaches, and most of the beaches are free. Whenever you see the umbrellas and the chairs set up, you typically have to pay for those. If you want to use them, there's a rental fee for the day, but the actual beach in front of all of that is free most of the time. They're not all free, but they'll let you know if they're not free. Just a quick note, especially if you have young boys like we do, you are likely going to see topless people on the beach. It's probably not going to be an entire topless beach, but there will be topless women on the beach in Italy, in northern Italy. Not so much in southern Italy, which, given the nature of Italians, northern versus southern, it's weird that it's that way to me. If you look up the nature of northern Italians and southern Italians, and just all the northern Italians and southern Italians I know, but regardless, it's that way. You will see topless women. There's a good chance of it anyways. Prepare your kids ahead of time. We had a talk with our kids and let them know it's normal, it's their culture. I mean, obviously in the States, there's topless beaches, but it's not as common as it is in Italy, where most of the beaches in the north, it's okay for you to be topless if you want to be. But just prepare your kids for that so they're not staring, because they will, especially if they're teenagers, they will be staring, regardless of the fact that the topless people are usually also the oldest people on the beach. It's weird. But yeah, just tell them not to stare, and you shouldn't stare either. I'm sure you know that, but just expect it is my only thing. But definitely check out the beaches. They're really nice. Finally, if you are leaving Venice for any reason, I do recommend taking the train. It's super safe. It's mostly affordable. Whenever you go to the train station, you can see the ticket booths and you can buy right there. You can turn it into English or whatever language you speak primarily, and it'll give you a few options on which train you want to take, and you'll see maybe the duration will change and the price will change. That's just different train lines. Some are faster than others, so they're more expensive. Some are slower, like budget trains, but if you're just going right outside, just get the cheapest, as long as the duration is reasonable. And you'll find the train station right across from the famous dome of Simeone Piccolo, which is the big greenish dome. It's right across from the water from that. You'll see the train station. Super easy to get to, super easy to just walk in, buy your tickets, go wherever you want to go. Make sure there's a train coming back when you need to be back. So those are my tips for traveling to Venice. Hopefully I covered most of the important stuff that you were wondering about. If you have any more questions, share them in the comments, and I can speak from experience on anything you need to know about. And again, if you've been to Venice, I would love to hear your experience in the comments. As a reminder, we publish a new article every Tuesday on Freedom Sprout, a new video every Friday, so please subscribe to get the videos, and check out freedomsprout.com to get those articles on teaching kids about money, on traveling, minimalism. Also, be sure to check out my new book, Intentional Children. I'll leave a link to that below. It's about raising intentional kids through finances and mindset. It covers all kinds of topics that usually slip through the cracks in parenting books, so check that out below. That's all for today. Let's stay intentional, and I will see you next week.